I didn't want to make an AEW video this soon after the last one. But after watching this week's Dynamite, I have to. First of all, I was not going to watch this week's Dynamite. I was playing Dragon Quest III HD 2D. I am not really into the storylines they're doing, so I chose to skip that week and just watch it later or read about it. I wound up watching it sometime on Thursday morning. Like early in the morning on Thanksgiving, and I've got to do a video about this. I have to say this, okay? First of all, before I go any further, if you're one of those AEW diehards who gets your feelings hurt every time somebody criticizes the company, close the video. Because you're not going to like this. You're not going to like it because I have really tried my best. Lord knows I have tried my best to give AEW and Tony Khan the benefit of the doubt. I've tried my best to be open-minded and understand the direction they're going in. I've tried my best to, be kind and be neutral. And I am neutral. And I want AEW to succeed. And I want there to be another wrestling company for us to watch with a lot of talent. I'm glad it exists, okay? But holy shit. This episode of Dynamite, talk about encompassing everything that is wrong with AEW and talk about being completely tone deaf. Your numbers are going down. People are not coming to the arenas. People are not watching the show and nothing changes. In fact, it gets worse. So let me go into some of the problems I have with this show. First of all, every week they have to have these 20, 25-minute matches, these long TV matches, and the problem with having long TV matches is that most of the time when AEW does them, you know who's going to win. The only time that a long TV match works is if it's with two top guys and you're not sure who's going to win. This is how it was back in the day during the Monday Night War. You would have a longer match on TV when it was a title match or when it was between two main eventers, not a main eventer and a mid-carder or a main eventer and a lower card guy. And they're going back and forth, and what happens is people click off because the majority of fans, believe it or not, don't give a fuck about good matches. I appreciate good matches. I appreciate the athleticism. The problem is that good matches don't matter if the storylines suck. And the storylines suck. The Jon Moxley Death Rider invasion angle is already dead to me. Nothing ever happens. It doesn't evolve. It's just the same thing over and over again. There's no real consistency to it. They're just doing the same thing every week. There's no new reveals. There's no changes. Like, if you study the bloodline, look at how when you go back to 2020, every couple weeks, every week, every 2 weeks, or every 3 weeks, something would happen to progress the story. Not here. It's just the same thing. Supposedly, Jon Moxley is booking this. That's what the insiders are saying. And this is another example as to why you probably shouldn't have wrestlers booking your product for you. But I'll be honest, I'd rather that than Tony Khan. I'll tell you why. These long TV matches that don't matter, and now we've got the Continental Classic, which is their version of the G1 or the Champions Carnival. Round robin tournaments that are supposed to be competitive wrestling matches. Because, we don't get enough of those on AEW. And the problem with the Continental Classic is that it doesn't have any consequences. It means nothing. And how do I know that? Because look what happened last year. Last year, Eddie Kingston won the Triple Crown to become the Continental Champion. And within 3 months, they split up all the belts. I thought the idea was to unify the titles as the AEW Continental titles and that whoever beat Eddie would get all three. Within months, they split the titles, dude. Within months. How can we care about these 3 lower card, mid card titles that aren't world titles? People already don't care. But to do something like that, all that means is, what are they fighting for? And then to make matters even worse on top of that, besides the fact that the titles don't mean anything, they're going to say, well, these matches are not allowed to have interference. I'm sorry, but aren't all matches not supposed to have interference? Isn't interference a disqualification? Doesn't AEW do referee distractions and referee knockouts to allow interference? Because if the referee sees interference, it's a disqualification. So interference is already in the AEW playbook, not allowed. But now in this weird, I guess, this meta, dirt sheet insider, well, we're not going to have interference in these matches, but the other ones we are, even though in canon no interference should be allowed. Do they realize how stupid this is? Tony Khan is not a good booker. In fact, I'm going to go a step further. He's a horrible booker. He is a horrible, 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 terrible, terrible, terrible booker. You need proof besides the fact that he's ran Ring of Honor and AEW to the ground? You want more proof? Look at this horrible Adam Cole feud with MJF. Besides the fact that they did something last year I never thought they could do. MJF actually became a likable babyface. Then they did that storyline with the devil that went way too long and wound up getting botched. Now they're trying to reverse that. The problem is that it doesn't make any sense and people aren't buying it. All of a sudden we're supposed to believe that Adam Cole was secretly being evil just to get at MJF, even though MJF didn't do anything to him first. If anything, MJF is still the babyface in that story. So because they wanted MJF to be a heel, which, like I said in my other video, he's a better heel. I get that. They went ahead and just flipped them. The problem is it's too soon after the story they had a year ago. It wasn't that long ago, but it gets even dumber. Roderick Strong is in this, right? And now he wants to wrestle MJF because he's Adam Cole's boy, and they had the match at Full Gear. But then now all of a sudden Kyle O'Reilly cares about Roderick Strong? Look, I know the history. I know they were in the Undisputed Era. I know they were in Ring of Honor. I know it. I follow these guys' careers. I know about Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong's history in in wrestling, including AEW. I know all that, right? But earlier this year, Kyle O'Reilly was feuding with Roderick Strong. Roderick kept trying to bring him into his stable, and Kyle said no and joined up with Mark Briscoe and his guys. Now, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's no TV angle, and I'm going to apologize right now. If there was a TV angle and I missed it, maybe on Collision, the show that nobody watches, if they did it there, then I'm sorry, but I don't watch Collision. They should have recapped it on Dynamite, but that's something else this fucking company never does. So now all of a sudden, Kyle O'Reilly cares about Roderick Strong's health. I get that they have history, but earlier this year, they were just feuding, and they were putting aside their friendship because we assumed in storyline the friendship was over. Now they're all baby faces going after MJF, and MJF's kind of tricking them into fighting against each other. But why does Kyle O'Reilly all of a sudden care? It's like AEW, and this same thing happened with MJF and Will Ospreay and the build to All In. Tony Khan is not a storyteller. He has no idea how to tell a fucking story. People say that Vince Russo was a bad booker because he knew how to do the beginning of a story but never followed up the middle and the end. Tony Khan has the same problem. Tony Khan, whenever he wants to have a match, what he'll do is he'll figure out some kind of an angle, right? And then because he wants the match, because he wants cage match ratings and Wrestling Observer star ratings, and he wants to have good matches for the sickos, as he calls them, the fucking 500,000 people that like AEW and will watch no matter what, the 10,000 that subscribe to Honor Club, if it's even that much. So instead of actually creating a logical storyline that goes week by week, where we see Kyle O'Reilly change his mind little by little, we see Roddy change his mind, Adam Cole, MJF, we see the characters have arcs, which is part of storytelling. Instead, they just one day wake up and say, you know what, I love you, Roddy, I'll defend you against MJF. It's so bad, dude. And I'm sorry. I love MJF, but that shtick is fucking played out. How much do you want to bet that MJF is going to bring up the Britt Baker breakup and Adam Cole's feud? Because all MJF does now is just use quote-unquote shoot stories to get heat. Roddy's mom and dad had issues, or, when CM Punk was there bringing up the WWE stuff, which was good at the time, but that's all MJF ever does now. Like, his character has not evolved. When he went from heel to babyface, there was actually some progression of his character. But we never got that progression back into being a heel. And there's a great story that could have been told there. If they had taken their fucking time and not rushed to do Will Ospreay and MJF and sat down and said, how can we turn MJF heel again, but keep the consistency of the character? No, one day he just decides to beat up Daniel Garcia because he's a bad person. God, it's so bad, dude. How can you not look at this year of AEW and say it's not the worst booking ever? Tony Khan is a horrible fucking booker. Look at the storyline with the Elite. Look what happened with that. The Young Bucks are supposed to be in charge of the company with Okada. 2 weeks, they start doing shit where they fuck over baby faces. Then all of a sudden the story's dropped and Tony's back and they have no power anymore until it's convenient for them to have power. You know, they'll change things around to fit whatever story they want to tell instead of being consistent within their own continuity. They have no continuity editor. This is exactly what WWE was. This is exactly why people hated WWE and hated the latter Vince McMahon era. And this is the reason why AEW even took off. Because it was years of inconsistent storytelling, guys disappearing, start-stop pushes, guys just doing shit, just nothing that was that interesting. Then AEW comes along and promises something different, and now it's been 5 years, and the tables have completely flipped. It's completely upside down. Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, two guys that 3 years ago were in AEW together, are now two of the top 5 pro wrestlers in the world when it comes to popularity. That's not bullshit. That's objective. Objective facts. AEW had Cody Rhodes and CM Punk at the same time. And yeah, things were different back then. And the company was actually better back than AEW was. But how can even Tony Khan sit there, a guy who's supposed to know so much about wrestling history because he watched so much of it? Well, I did too, motherfucker. I did too. And if you really are a fan of the great all-time bookers, like your Bill Wattses, Don Owens, these guys, Paul Bosch, Dave Meltzer's like mentor, then you know that logical storytelling is more important than matches. If you want to do a dream match, which is all AEW does, if you want to give that Will Ospreay MJF match the big, huge match they wanted for All In, the second main event of All In, really the co-main event, they should have thought about it ahead of time and written the story week by week before they executed it. Instead, they have Max come back at Double or Nothing as a babyface, and within a month, he's a heel again. Meantime, he's feuding with a bunch of Mexicans, with a bunch of luchadors. What? That's 2024 AEW. That is 2024 AEW. This company is looking more and more like the Dixie Carter era of TNA, which I lived through. And what insults me the most is how fucking... Look, I understand that billionaires don't live in the same world that the rest of us do. The rest of us have to get up and we have to work, and we don't know when our next paycheck's going to come sometimes. We don't know if we're going to be able to take our kids on that vacation. We don't know. But if you're a billionaire, you don't really live in reality. So because he's that rich, Tony Khan and the Khan family... And don't even get me started on the Ricky Starks thing. That's a whole other can of worms. When you're that filthy rich, and you're born into money, you don't work for it, you're born into it, it's completely absurd. You don't live in reality. So when I see these press conferences, well, Daniel Garcia, he's a great wrestler, had a great match tonight. He came into AEW during the pandemic and he's really improved, and I'm very happy for him. He had a great match. Tonight was a great night of wrestling. It's the same fucking shit every pay-per-view. You could have a pay-per-view where hogs are shitting in the ring, like that match Triple H had in '95, the hog pen match, even though it wasn't in the ring. You could have a pay-per-view of hogs shitting in the ring and 15 injuries. I think we gave everybody a great night of wrestling. Stop bullshitting, bro. Stop bullshitting the wrestling community. Stop bullshitting the fans. And most importantly, stop bullshitting yourself. When you're that rich, criticism means nothing. You know why? Because no amount of criticism will ever affect your lifestyle. The Khan family can afford to lose millions for the rest of their life, and because they are billionaires, there is a big difference between being a millionaire and a billionaire, and I mean a huge difference. It doesn't matter and nothing will change. Tony's back will never really be against the wall. Nothing will ever force him to improve AEW and to look outside of his own little dream match box, because what's he got to lose? They're so rich that they could lose millions, and it's like you and I losing $5. That's what it's like. So, and I feel like I've said this before on this channel, but this week's AEW, Queen Aminata, bro, I thought Jade Cargill was green. Queen Aminata damn near decapitating Jamie Hayter, and then they're building up to a Julia Hart-Jamie Hayter match. Why? Can somebody explain why this match is happening? Well, maybe I missed it. Maybe there's a story that I missed. Oh, maybe you should pay attention. No, maybe AEW should do what other wrestling companies have done and recap the stories for people who missed the TV or for new fans who are jumping over. You know how many people are wrestling fans that I went to high school with who want to try AEW but have no idea what the hell is going on? They see a bunch of Japanese guys. Who the hell is Ishii? Who's Mina Shirakawa? Like, they don't know, and there's not enough information to really explain who these characters are. And AEW never tries to do it. It's just, it's a very niche product for a niche audience. The problem is that that this guy's spending millions and millions and millions and millions and millions for a very small audience. It's almost like, literally, like if you, let's say you were a billionaire and your favorite rapper was Kendrick Lamar, and you had the ability to pay Kendrick Lamar to rap for you every year on your birthday. And you don't mind paying it because you're already a billionaire and it doesn't matter to you, even if his rate goes up. But because you love Kendrick Lamar, you want the concert at your birthday every single year. It makes you happy. That's what AEW is. Replace Kendrick Lamar with AEW. That's all that matters. CM Punk tried to warn us. And my God, that Dynamite was so bad. I'm not watching Dynamite next week. You can forget it. Fuck Winter is Coming. At World's End is in Orlando, 45 minutes away from my house. And I know that show's probably going to have Ospreay and Okada. And I would love to see Ospreay Okada live, because for years that was my number one and number two favorite wrestlers. But even I don't want to go to AEW, dude. 45 minutes away. Because I'm so disgusted with the company. It's so bad. And I cannot believe these shows. And it's not the only bad show. There was another bad Dynamite a few weeks ago, too. I just can't believe these shows are being approved. And Tony Khan or somebody in AEW goes, you know what? This is good. This is good. This is great. We had a great night of wrestling. We are doing aggressive negotiations with Warner Brothers. That they take care of us. Mr. Zaslav's a good friend of mine. Everything's always good, bro. Hey, Tony, people aren't going to the shows anymore. You're running smaller buildings. Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I've never really done a show in Hammerstein. I would love to see. Why don't you fucking tell the truth, bro? You're fucking pissed off because people aren't buying tickets anymore because your show sucks. So you're running a smaller venue because you have to try to save money. And it's smart. It's a very smart thing to do. WWF did that in 1995. WCW did that in the mid-90s. That all makes perfect sense. But don't bullshit the people. Don't bullshit yourself. Why would you sit there and say, I'm excited to run Hammerstein? Which maybe a part of him is, he's a mark for indie wrestling on ECW, as I am. But wouldn't you rather run Arthur Ashe? Or MSG? I mean, he'll never get into MSG, but you get my point. Like, it's so strange. And I see through the bullshit. And I think most wrestling fans see through this guy's bullshit. I don't think AEW is ever going to improve as long as Tony Khan's in charge. And unfortunately, he's never not going to be in charge because, to his credit and to our dismay, he loves it. He loves being the booker. He loves running a wrestling company. Good on him. I'm happy for him. I really am. It's cool. I have no personal hate for the guy. He's one of the nicest people from what everybody says. It's not personal. But I want to like AEW. I want to enjoy AEW like I used to. I'm cranky as a wrestling fan. I want to enjoy this shit. I don't want to see garbage. Like it's so, like, you're insulting the intelligence of the people that fucking give you money with this Adam Cole MJF storyline. You know what should have happened? Adam Cole should have faced MJF at Full Gear, pins him, and we're done. We move on. If you can't figure out how to keep this story going to where it makes logical sense and things actually happen and that are interesting, just end the shit. Have Cole, you know what? Fuck it. Have Cole beat him on Dynamite. And that's it. The story's over. Move on. That's how sick of it I am. And I like both those guys. I like MJF and Adam Cole. I said earlier this year they should have gone back to that feud but continued it where it left off. Not suddenly tried to flip it into, yeah, well, Adam was actually a good guy the entire time and MJF was the secret bad guy. Nobody buys that, bro. Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong were feuding all throughout the year, but he really secretly loved him. He secretly wants to protect him from Max as if he's not his own fucking man. Like, oh, it's so bad, man. It's so bad. AEW Dynamite sucks.